Welcome to Close Encounters of the Tech Kind. I'm John. We're going to have a fantastic conversation this week, talking about just various things we've talked in the past and some in the future. We've got Linux, got a boost in their numbers. People are ditching Windows to get into that. We've got AI robots. I think that's going to be the next tech race, guys. We've got holiday scams. Got a couple ideas to help everybody that you know be safe. I want to get this thought out in the public sphere. And then, guys, we've talked this one to death, I think, but I definitely want to talk Flock because I've seen it in the news again. But let me introduce everybody to Mike, Jackson, and Artie.
How's it going?
Hey.
Good evening.
Artie sits behind a computer monitoring things, keep us up in the Artie, you're failing at your job. My camera just dropped.
It's not a good production without at least one screw up.
I thought we had a par 3 on this course. So yeah, Artie, that happened. So let's jump in. We've got Linux. What a fantastic opportunity Windows gave them at Microsoft.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's been slowly going this way. I feel like we talked about this a year ago too, where people were starting to just kind of think more about Linux and kind of look towards Linux as a hope of replacing Windows. Really, the only thing that holds Linux back is the fact that some developers aren't developing for Linux. And so there are a lot of applications out there that are simply just not compatible on Linux because they haven't been developed for it. And I think if that weren't the case, I think we would see a huge, huge jump from Windows to Linux. Especially right now, and not just because all of a sudden things became available. I think because of the way Windows is pushing its users and kind of pushing their operating system away from what everyone used to like. I mean, everyone's looking for an opportunity to ditch it. And that was something that was seen by the developers of Zorin OS. They're a Linux distro that are kind of trying to emulate the way Windows functions. It's got kind of the same Windows like tiling features. It's got a similar looking control center and all of that. And it does also pull in some of the aspects for Mac OS. I haven't used it myself. I don't know if anyone here has actually used it. I'd be curious to spin up a little VM maybe and give it a shot and just, explore it. But there are lots of Linux distros like this that are trying to pull in those features that people are familiar with to make this switch easier because they know people are looking for an opportunity. They're begging for it. But what the developers of Zorin said is that over 780,000 Windows users, instead of going to Windows 11, instead downloaded, Zorin OS. So they had a huge jump as they went beyond 1 million downloads in just the recent months since Windows 10 has lost its support.
780,000?
Yeah.
Individual users, or is it like 110,000 users that downloaded and installed it on 7 different computers? I mean, I don't know.
That is a good question. It just says downloaded, so I'm not sure if they are reporting that themselves to make themselves look better, or if they did their due diligence there. I'm not sure.
I know that there's a lot of Linux systems that they like to check in with the mothership to say, hey, here's a new installation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Yeah, I just went to the webpage just to look it up because I've never heard of it either. So I wanted to look at this, and I might give it a try myself just to see what the experience is.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of funny though? Like, I mean, none of us, I don't know if anyone heard of this before. None of us heard of it before, and then here it is making headlines because it works. Linux works.
And it's entirely possible. I may have seen the name before, but good grief. I mean, when you talk about Linux Linux distros and how many forks of a fork of a fork of a fork. I mean, it's almost like you're a Linux nerd when you can trace your distro's genealogy all the way back to,
I think that's what's so cool
it
about it,
starts
though.
looking like an excerpt out of the Old Testament of, this begot this, begot this, begot that.
I think that's what's so cool about Linux, though, and like it's not something that I have delved into is really customizing an OS to my wants and needs. And I usually just stick to those parent ones, Ubuntu or Mint or whatever, you name
Mhm.
it. But yeah, like you said, there are so many like forks and branches of things that people have added to tailor an OS directly to what they like and what they want.
Or a
And
specific use case,
yeah.
like I know that there's ones that are out there geared towards like the audio visual group, or it's game playing, or it's I just want something super stable and works. And
hmm Or
yeah,
for your development platform, whatever.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think one thing that occurred that really affected this was Valve's release of their Steam OS,
Yep.
because it
I think you're right.
showed to a larger audience that it's a stable, functional operating system.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is they appealed to a new market, right? Because I mean, historically, if you were a gamer, 90+% of the games that you like to play were only available on Windows, and
Mhm.
them not being available on Linux was a big point. I mean, I myself, I tried to switch to Linux on my laptop, but I mean, mostly the reason I had to stick to Windows was because there were pieces of software for schooling that are only available on Windows. And so I was like, oh,
Mhm.
well, now I have to dual boot or I have to do some sort of a VM. And it's like, it's just a pain in my butt. So I was just like, forget it. I'll just stick to Windows for now. So it's like, those are like, if it weren't for like these 2, 3, 4 pieces of software that I use on a daily basis, that were locked into Windows, like I would ditch Windows so fast.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, it's
definitely.
the anti-cheats that are keeping the gaming from hitting Linux in a big way.
So how has Valve dealt with it? Because I mean, Steam, like the Steam OS, it's runs, most of their games, right? And so I feel like that was the big step forward. So does it not run a lot of these anti-cheats?
So
So the thing with
the
the
Steam
anti-cheats,
OS. Go ahead, Artie.
is most of them want to have kernel access,
Mhm.
and you don't do that in Linux. I mean, you shouldn't do that in any
Not lightly.
program that doesn't actually need kernel access. And I'm of the belief that, if the anti-cheat requires kernel access, I don't play that game, no matter how much I want to, because, no, I don't like programs that shouldn't have kernel access demanding it, essentially.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
What could go wrong? I mean, it's just a video game.
Well, did we talk about that several months ago with some of those? There were like some game hacks or something that happened because of that. Geez, that is just incredible. Like I remember back in the day, when we talk about the very first gaming platforms, there was no such thing as I mean, there wasn't even really an operating system for a lot of what we consider consoles. Like you look at the old Atari 2600, the operating system came on the cartridge for the game you put in, and it was up to each developer to figure out how they're going to manage the memory and how are we going to draw the screen, how are we going to here's what the hardware's capable of, but how are we actually going to utilize it to make the game work and make it fit inside this cartridge. And now there's so much available and so much security that's built into the operating system that now developers should be confined to, like, this is your realm, this is your sandbox that you can play with. You shouldn't need to go outside of these bounds and touching critical operating system functions and things like that.
I
And
saw an Atari game, or well, cartridge that was a video pass-through.
oh
You
yeah,
plug in like a VCR into the cartridge, and it puts it on the screen.
No way.
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty that's pretty awesome.
Like digitally?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is just kind of a side note, but I think
Horrible
it's
resolution.
hilarious.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think it's hilarious though that like when we're talking about these anti-cheats needing root level access, like that's just hilarious to me. To the point of, hackers or cheaters in these games are willing to go to such these lengths to get the right input to trick the anti-cheat into thinking that they're not cheating or whatever it is. I think that's impressive. Like, I'm just gonna say, find something better to do with your time. If that's what you're doing is to figure out how to
I
cheat
think
in some video
I
game,
think I think I think they missed the point of what the game is. Like
I know.
sometimes the
It's money.
game is not the game. The game is like this behind the scenes stuff. It's like I'm gonna beat the game, a different way. Like
That's actually how we did our security model back in my old tech labs when we installed it in schools. It was open for anybody to do anything they want to those desktops. We used a program called Deep Freeze that would erase all changes on reboot.
Nice.
So if you're gonna hack the computer, have fun. I'm gonna reboot it and it goes away anyways. So we took away that challenge to the kids to do things besides what they're supposed to do. So you can't hack the computer because we don't care. You're effectively a system administrator anyways.
I like that. I always hate walking into some lab, whether it's on campus or anywhere, and you're just restricted. You're just like, oh, let me do the things I need to do.
That's actually what spawned me into security is I would break the security on a computer to do the things I need to do anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, and I probably shouldn't admit that on a podcast like this, but that's what got me going is I need to do a thing. The security's in my way. I need to do my thing. I'm gonna make security not in my way.
Yeah.
It was
we
ha
we are our own
we
worst enemies many times.
well, I mean, that's the essence of, white hat hackers, right? Figure out how it works.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that was white hat behavior. Let's be very clear here. I'm defeating security to do what I want. But, yeah, it I got my work done.
It's one of my favorite memes, these tech related memes. It's that scene from Hades, if you know what I'm talking about, where Hades, goes, "I own you," and the caption is, or it's just the picture of the Windows prompt that says, "You need administrator access to do this."
yeah. So with everybody adopting Linux, downloading Zorin OS or whatever flavor of Linux that they're out there downloading, I think another thing is that the stumbling block that I always saw was that the foothold that not necessarily Windows per se, but the applications that were developed for Windows then got themselves in the foothold of being like the de facto standard for like Microsoft Word. Microsoft did a great job with their Office suite to say this is the de facto standard for office productivity. We've got the spreadsheet, we got the word processor, we got the PowerPoint. Everybody uses this. And so even Apple had a hard time cracking that because I know for a long time that Apple would ship with their own word processor and spreadsheet and
It's terrible.
PowerPoint type. And it was nothing like it could do word
It was the worst.
processing, but it wasn't it was not as powerful. And if you were coming from the environment of being on Windows and using the Microsoft products, you expected things to work a certain way because that's how you've learned how to do it. And it just wasn't it. So unless you were into some other software line vendor that was multi-platform, I mean, you've been raised and trained on a Windows system, and that's what you know and you learn. And it's hard to go to something else when they don't do it the same way.
Well, Mike,
And
not to disagree, but remember Lotus?
barely. I do. Yeah, I remember Lotus was a thing,
Lotus
but
and
barely.
WordPerfect were the alternative.
I remember when WordPerfect was the de facto standard, when we were
I
still
remember.
using DOS PCs, and WordPerfect got a huge share of the word processing, and Microsoft Word was really not very good compared to WordPerfect. Everybody I knew, well, okay, everybody I knew used WordPerfect, but it does help the fact that I grew up at WordPerfect's headquarters, basically. Like, I knew people who were VPs at WordPerfect. I'll put it that way. But
Whatever
yeah,
happened to them? Did they die?
they got
Die
bought
out?
out by Corel initially, and then I think it's been. Does Corel still own the brand? I don't remember. Ultimately, I know it ended up in Corel's hands, but
Oh.
it was a huge deal. And my cousin worked for WordPerfect in doing doing technical writing for them. I had neighbors that all were software engineers and user experience testing and all kinds of just different things over at that campus. And it was the de facto standard. Like, everybody used WordPerfect until WordPerfect wasn't anymore. And so then everybody went, well, what's Microsoft Word? I guess that's what we're going to use now. So everybody went to Microsoft. But
And
Have
I
you
think
guys
that's
used LibreOffice?
I
yes.
have.
Yeah.
In my last job, I had our whole company set up to use, initially it was actually, we were using OpenOffice, and then LibreOffice forked off of that because in open source you'll often have management disagreements, and I don't like the direction these guys are going, so I'm going to fork it my own direction, and we're going to take it this way. So yeah, I've used a bunch of those different varieties of either OpenOffice or LibreOffice, and that's what I got my staff that I was the IT person for to use, because we didn't want to have to keep buying licenses of Microsoft Word every time we had a new user come in with a new computer and this and that. It's just easier to download it for free and use it. And it would get updates as it needed to, and it was always compatible. We could still open our Word documents with some degree of compatibility, at least enough compatibility that we could see what was going on. And it worked for us. There was no problem with that. And if not for other software, I probably could have converted the entire office over to Linux completely, because that's really all we needed to do. Is we needed a word processor, we needed some spreadsheets, and we needed to be able to get on the internet and check email. Linux does all that. So
Well, it's the compatibility, right? It's
yeah,
you're sending files to not just internal, but to outside people, and they've got to open it and use it.
we always exported to PDF. That
So
was
I think
our common thing. Like, hey, if we need to send you some, we're going to send it as a PDF, because we know what that's going to look like. It's going to be reliable in how it displays and prints across any platform: Mac, PC, Linux, Android, whatever.
I may have told the story on this podcast before, but I had a friend that was working back in the day, sent his resume into Sun Microsystems.
Really?
Okay, so Sun was like the coolest group, right? You get
Right?
the what was it? The Solaris box, the Indigo box, all those others that were just really cool.
The heavy
No,
computers.
Solaris was the OS, but it was the
Yeah.
Indigo box. It was anyway. Yeah, he wanted to work there. The recruiter called him up and said, "Hey, there's a problem. I can't open up your resume." He said, "Did the file get corrupted in email?" She says, "Well, you could say that. You sent it in Word file format." So yeah, they had their own system. I forget what it was, but they couldn't open doc files.
Wow.
So, kind of going back to this whole Zorin OS thing, and
Oh yeah.
Linux in general, the movement to Linux. I want to know when, or if maybe, if if is probably the first question we should ask. If the developers are going to start developing for Linux, and what's going to stop them? What is the big? I mean, obviously, money is the big, big decision maker. But I mean, what's it going to take for them to start developing for Linux? Because as soon as that happens, I mean, I myself am going to jump ship.
I know the answer.
Do tell.
Yeah, and tell me if I want discussion on this. I don't want to be like, here it is, and walk away. The forks need to stop. There needs to be a stable release that everybody rallies behind. Because all the difference in flavors and things, the different functionalities, the different libraries, the different, okay, having a different desktop environment, cool. But if a person can't download a file, a program, and install it, and it runs, guaranteed every time, it won't take over. With Windows, I can download a file, install it, and it will run. With Linux, I got to know, is it Debian? Is it Ubuntu? Is it,
That's true.
I got to know the flavor.
Well, yeah, actually, so this is where the genealogy of Linux comes in to play, because in my experience, and from what I remember and understand, is the Ubuntu is based off of Debian. And to that matter, there's some others. There's like Linux Mint, which is actually, I believe, actually not just based off Debian, but based off of Ubuntu. So if you can get it to run on Linux Mint, it should be also running on Ubuntu and Debian.
Should.
It does. It should, but I think you're right that there are way too many flavors
and versions.
Like
you got to check your version dependencies on things.
And we have to whittle down, like, I don't mind that there are forks. I worry that everybody's fork that comes out seems like we're going to be the fork. We're going to be the flavor that you want. Like, and who decides that? Like, you have to work around this whole open source community of everybody that's been developing for years and years now, and try to establish some kind of a standard of what is going to be the thing. And I understand from some other things I've seen is that there's actually problems in the open source society, from what I'm seeing reported, that people can't get along because of differences. And so it's really making the development, it's stalling the development, in my opinion. That
and to that point, would you risk your company on that disagreement, that discord, that feud?
And that's just it too, is that then you end up with things like, well, okay, here's a group that has a really solid idea and they can fork it and they start to maintain it for a little bit. But then if it's not their day job and they're not getting paid for it, then their day job either takes over, or because somebody else sees what they're doing, they get poached out and hired to do some other project. Like, hey, we saw what you did with this. We want to hire you on and consult with us for blah, blah, blah. And so now their focus is not on that anymore, or they just get tired of the project, and then things get abandoned and nobody's left to maintain it. And we've all talked about this before when we're talking about vulnerabilities, because it's old legacy code that hasn't been updated in months, years, decades even. I mean, I don't know. And then because somebody finds a flaw in it, who's going to make that patch and update it and keep things secure? Who's going to make the regular updates? And so there's so many just different dependencies. But at the same time, if we rally around just one, then does that start to make it more like the proprietary software where there's like only one way that we do this kind of thing? You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if that's the answer either, because we like the different ideas and the different approaches and different people having input so that all bases are covered and everybody's watching each other to say, let's not let any bugs creep in and let's not let any security holes creep in. it's really a very tricky balance, I think, to have successful open source projects that the world can use reliably.
And I think that's kind of my point is there's too many independent, rightfully focused on their own ambitions and doing the right thing. You know, it's you get a room full of doctors, they can't even agree what toothpaste to use, right?
Mhm. Just
But
9
we
out
could
of 10 9 out of 10 they'll recommend all the toothpastes.
Yeah.
Like
So, uh, I was trying to find. It took me forever to find this statistic, and as statistics go, you don't know how well you can trust it. This comes from the open source report, or state of open source report, or openlogic.com, I think is where they're based. Their website is. But I was trying to find the most popular distributions. At 50, so the question was, which open source Linux distributions does your organization use? So there could be more than one answer here. But 56% of respondents replied with Ubuntu, then at 31% Debian, 25% CentOS, and then 21% is RHEL. I'm actually not familiar with that one. And
Red Hat.
then,
Isn't that Red Hat Enterprise Linux?
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And then going down the list, 15%, 14%, 11%, 10%, and that's Alpine, Fedora, Amazon, Kali Linux, and Mint is actually down at 7.21%. And again, this is a question posed to organizations. I know Mint is probably more popular among individuals than it might be in an organization. But going off of this list, it makes sense, and especially if you said that Ubuntu is based off of Debian, if we can just all rally behind that, I mean, and if developers can just create for those, if we can create for Ubuntu and Debian, I think you are going to encapsulate a lot of the market. And going from one Linux distro to another, I would hope isn't a deal breaker. I mean, in the big picture of things, it's either Windows or Linux, and I would rather take a different Linux distro to the one I'm used to using or I have implemented than going back to Windows, right? So I feel like for me, going back to what you said, John, about the reason that we can't is because there's too many forks and stuff. Like, we can't get rid of that because that is what so many people like about Linux. That's what's so great about it. But we can all rally behind, and developers, I mean, they're going to do what's most profitable, and most profitable, according to these statistics, is going to be developing for Ubuntu and Debian and Cent, or whatever is kind of in that same line.
And I will say this too, that there are a lot of projects with technologies such as Docker, or I can't remember what the other ones are. There's like, I think is it Snaps? Ubuntu, I think, has some like Snaps or something, where it's basically you're creating little virtual environments for the application to run. So that way the application can install whatever dependencies it needs, whether those dependencies work with the core operating system or not. It almost like it doesn't matter. It's just like, look, the operating system's got its own library of dependencies that it runs on, but I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to run in my own little container here. And, you download and you install, your favorite Office program, and it just runs in a little container by itself. And it doesn't really touch, from what I understand, what the operating system is doing, but you still have the Linux. It's still in Linux. I mean, it's still operating on your system the way it should. And, I think there's going to be more technologies that come out like that that's going to say, well, flavor almost doesn't matter. If you can at least install this engine that can run these things, then you're good to go.
Yeah. And I think I think it's gonna take some business and backing on something like Red Hat before we can get there. The other side of this, guys, uh, Linus Torvald, the guy who wrote Linux,
Mhm.
he's gonna retire at some point. Somebody's gonna have to carry that torch.
You know, and that's interesting because I just had popped up on my feed that Linus Torvalds and Linus from Linus Tech Tips got together to do a computer build. And I was starting to watch the video, and it's very interesting to watch LTT asking questions about, like, you know, what's your computer build? What does it look like and everything? And it's just interesting to take his perspective. And I've also watched other videos of Linus Torvalds, and he has his own preferences of what he likes to use and what he likes to see and where he wants to see the project go. But you're absolutely right, is that he's getting a little grayer, you know, these days, and he's going to eventually want to retire and just be done with it and turn it over to somebody else. And whether that person takes it in a new direction, or if it continues in the direction it's been going, or if they find some new innovation, I don't know. But one of the things
'Cause
that he
that's the
did bring
kernel.
up, though, that they said in the parts of the video that I watched, is that if somebody had already done it the way he needed it, he wouldn't have ever done it. He did it because he had a need, and he needed to fill that need, and nobody else was filling that need. So he said, well, if nobody else is going to fill the need, I'm going to go do what I need to do and make the tool and build it myself and start it. And if somebody else had done it, then it'd be somebody else's project on it. And it'd be their name on it instead of his.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I like that's what this open source and the Linux world seems to promote more, is that if you don't have the tool, you're more than welcome to build the tool. Here's all the pieces to build the tool if you need the tool. Whereas with Windows, or even with Mac OS or some other more proprietary operating system, it's like you have to buy in,
Yeah.
you know, or hope that somebody else has already got like a project started that you could like take and do something with. But that's if you can get their source code, you know.
And that's exactly what my point is we're stuck in a place where we have to hang our business on a couple people.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is a big company. They're gonna do it. They're gonna find somebody on their team to solve the problem, right? Because that business is legally liable for, serious outages. But if Linux goes down, it's a bunch of volunteers. That's the problem we gotta solve for Linux to become mainstream, in my opinion. But hate to
Yeah,
say it,
yeah,
we
that's a
gotta
good
we gotta
point.
shift gears if we're gonna hit the rest of our hit list here, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so my challenge to all of you on this podcast and all of our viewers, establish a buddy system. Find somebody that is less than tech savvy and be their friend, their go-to, their call for help when a scam hits them. If we do a one-to-one, somebody that's savvy and somebody that is vulnerable, we have a chance. So spread the word. Everybody should have a friend. Now, the challenge here, guys, is as you're savvy with computers, everybody's gonna come to you and say, "Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this?" That's just too much. To fight scams, we don't need our level of engineering understanding on things. We don't need our level of fixing problems. We just need somebody that's skeptical enough to say, "Hey, do you really think that person, it might be an AI voice that's scamming you? Do you really think that that's legit, that somebody needs $82,000 sent to them in a weird box and you can't tell the bank where it's going, what's it for?"
It's the Arabian Prince.
Ultimate
You know,
irony would be he's real.
you know that the Arabian Prince has been
Thought it was Nigerian.
Or
Yeah, the Nigerian prince. The Nigerian prince has been around since before you were born, Jackson. Did you know
I
that?
know.
Yeah. As long
I
as there has
swear,
been
he's real.
email, there's been. I swear, I think on the original ARPANET, I think there was a Nigerian prince scam going around between the 2 or 3 colleges. You know,
That's pretty funny.
I mean, it's scamming is as old as the internet. And the best thing we can do is help each other through this moment. So in the holidays, spread the word, tell everybody, find a person that's vulnerable and get a buddy system going. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. But let's talk about the next challenge that I'm seeing on the horizon. We just watched AI step in and take over in the course of like 18 months. Hasn't been long since GPT came out with version 3, which actually worked, and 4 did that much better. What's the next step, guys?
that's actually really interesting. I hadn't planned on talking about this originally, but over the Thanksgiving holidays, I talked to some of my family members who are also in the tech industry. The couple that I talked to actually are software developers. And I just threw the question out there. So how is AI affecting your job? And I left it really open-ended. I didn't mean for it to say like, is it taking over your job? It's more just you answer however you feel like. Are you using it as a tool? Is your company requiring it? Is your company providing it as a tool? Like I just left it really open-ended. And so I had family members that talked about how, yeah, their companies are really starting to adopt this. They think they see it as if we don't adopt it, somebody else is, and they're going to beat us out to the punch, you know. And it's both on the side of implementing some kind of an AI feature into their software, as well as utilizing whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or there's all the others that are out there in some form to help them write the code to speed up development and everything. And so, fortunately, like one relative that I talked to, he said, like, I'm at a place where I'm actually, I think he said that he's not actually, like, he does code, but it's more his job is to review and everything. And it does help out. And there are some things that it's really reduced the workload of like writing test cases. Like that's something that he just absolutely hated doing, is like trying to think of all the test cases. Whereas you can throw that into AI and it's like AI can just come up with a huge test unit, to run the code against and everything. So it is really fascinating to see where it's kind of come, how it's being adopted, but he agrees, it's still got to double check it. It still can tend to go off the rails if you're not paying attention, and you got to learn how to use it properly as a tool, be very specific in what you're asking for. Don't leave things too open-ended, because otherwise you might end up with changes that you didn't anticipate in the rest of your code because the AI thought, well, since we're here, why don't we just optimize this and this and that and make the dialog box print cows all over the screen instead of, who knows what, right? So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see, as we agreed though, that as there's more training and as we can help it learn what it is we're looking for, it's going to get better and better.
You know what I think the next tech race is?
What's that?
Robots.
Yeah.
Just so many companies out there trying to put human-like robots into houses to just be the first company on the playing field with robots.
Are people really going to want that though? Like, has Hollywood scared people enough into having that kind of thing? Do you
So the
think?
cool one that I saw, the counterpoint, Jackson, we were talking about this pre-show. Is it a humanoid robot or is it a robot that can do the job? So the one that I saw was like a Roomba base, a humanoid torso with arms, and the training on it was brilliant, actually. They put gloves on thousands of volunteers, and they had the volunteers just do work, like doing the dishes. And so this robot would drive its base over, move itself up and down, pick up dishes, load the dishwasher, and then unload the dishwasher. And that's it. So if it can do that, you can start teaching it to do other things too.
So here's the two kind of sides of that argument that I've heard, and I think I lean to one side more than the other, the side that's actually not humanoid. And the reason for that is, I mean, think of it this way. Well, okay. Well, let me back up. Starting with the argument for the humanoid robot, right? The argument is we live in a human world. We've designed our world to fit us, human hands, human height, you name it. Everything is meant to be interacted by with us.
2 legs, 2 feet, 2 eyes.
Yep. So the idea is you create a humanoid robot that just integrates into our society, which I think is a great idea. But when you do that, you also inherit certain limitations that humans have. For example, I don't have eyes in the back of my head. I have a limited field of view. I don't have infrared vision. I don't have, all of this stuff that.
Wait, you don't have infrared?
I actually don't.
I don't Yeah, I don't have 4 arms.
I don't have 4 arms. I don't have 20 fingers on each hand. So there are certain. Now that's not to discount human nature or God for that reason, or Mother Nature or God for that reason. The human is an incredible organism, but there are certain limitations, like what we just talked about. And so the argument against that is, and I think one that I stand for is, would you rather have a humanoid robot grab your vacuum and start vacuuming, or would you just let the Roomba do it? Or, would you rather have a humanoid robot, struggle, have to go through all this training of loading and unloading your dishwasher, or would you just have a conveyor belt that just does it for you? So it's kind of that idea, and it requires, I mean, the advantage with the humanoid is like, okay, it can kind of do everything that we can do. That's the idea. And I do like that. It's one robot to kind of do it all. Or you can have specialized robots that do one thing very well.
I saw an XKCD on the best refrigerator ever, and it has slow moving conveyor belts on the inside and trash can in the bottom. So it takes a week for the top shelf to get to the end and things fall off.
Oh, I like that. I need that.
I think we're going to develop humanoid robots, and it's not going to work well. All of them are going to have issues, and we're going to fall back to what you're saying with an application specific robot.
Mm-hmm.
You buy one to do the vacuuming, you buy one to do the dishes, and you buy one to do the laundry. And then eventually it'll get to the point where it can do multiples. But I don't know. I don't think we're going to get robots that can do what we need it to soon. But there's a
I
race
don't
right now to get them in.
I don't know about everybody else, but I see it as a maintenance nightmare. Like, the more technology that gets integrated into my stuff, then the more it breaks, and the more I have to pay to fix it. Like, it's just, if this robot breaks, man, and I end up doing the dishes myself, I'm gonna realize, you know what? I can just do the dishes myself and never fix the robot. And so what? It's
If it's
20
made by
minutes.
John Deere, you won't be able to anyway.
It's 20 minutes out of my day to do the dishes. The dishes are done, and I saved myself a couple $1,000, And if this does get adopted, I see it's going to be a high price ticket item. It's going to be wealthy people, rich people that maybe have the 35-room mansion or something, that in the long run it's cheaper for them to pay for machine than it would be to hire staff to take care of their house or whatever it is they have, their properties. You know, it's a luxury item. Is really what it comes down to. I don't know that I can see widespread use for quite a while anyway. And there would have to be like an absolute need for it. I don't know. I'm interested to see how humanity really goes. Like if humanity could wake up and say, hey, we don't really need so much technology. There are things that I need to be able to do myself, that I should do myself to keep myself healthy and strong. I don't need all these machines doing it for me.
Well,
Yeah, we
there's
don't
there's
need
an
Wally.
interesting, and they had application robots. Like, they
Yeah.
had robots that would do anything, or, they had a lot of robots that did single jobs
Mhm.
with full AI intelligence. I don't know how frustrated I'd be if I was stuck doing just one job, and that's the only thing I can do because that's how I was built. But hey, why not? But, if you've got I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Take it
Can I
away,
can
Artie.
I can I jump in?
Yeah.
I'll jump in here. I see a possible future. And I think, Mike, I agree with you. I agree with you on, like, yeah, we shouldn't just have everything automated. There is something to the human experience. But besides the point, I see a future where it's possible that, John, if you want to interrupt, if you got your thought, but I see a future where I think the best solution is going to be compartmentalized robots with AI, whatever. They can do their job. They have one job. And then you have this humanoid robot that is basically your butler, right? I see that being top of the line. I think that makes the most sense for me. And maybe, the butler gets so good that it's able to kind of maintain the other robots, right? Whether that's, hey, go give the dishes to the dishwasher, or, whatever it may be. And I see that product then having as the technology gets cheaper, that gets integrated into these homes where, and I can't afford to have a robot that does every single job, but now the butler can kind of do, you know, it can grab my vacuum and go vacuum my floors, or it can wash the dishes in my sink. I feel like that is probably a probable future where I don't think, like, I think there's a place for humanoid robots, and I think that's where it'll come through when, you don't have the money to buy, an entire smart home, but you could buy the robot that can do a lot of, maybe not everything,
Piece
but
at
it
a
can do a
time.
lot.
Just a piece at a time.
Yeah.
We're gonna piece part in the Crichton robot, Artie.
Hmm.
I
So
could get behind that.
you get the vacuum attachment, you get the dusting attachment, you get the dishes attachment.
You get the
That
thing
just
that
made
you
me think
use
of, like, the
to whip
Teletubbies.
up an omelet.
Yep. So my thought on this, guys, is as we get closer to this, we're actually on the edge of replacing the need to trade labor for money, right? Society at large, we trade labor for money. But if a robot can do the labor, we're at an interesting time because now we don't have to do labor for life to continue. So what do we do? The thought that everybody's coming up with is universal basic income. I'm dead set against that because people shouldn't be just given money for nothing. But we're at a place where that almost makes sense.
Well,
'Cause
here's what I see, and I feel like this could be a really great thing for maybe our education. If ideally, the opinion that I hold is that AI is truly incapable of creation, and it's bad at design, and so I think it will push more jobs towards uh, design focused in creation and engineering, which is really great, and creativity. I feel like that is, I hope, if that's the place where we're going, that's where we get pushed to, and education kind of follows that. Is, let's design, or let's teach engineers, let's teach artists and musicians, and things that AI can't truly replace. Something that needs that human element of creation.
And that's where I think we should spend our time and energy, is figuring out right now. We need to have the discussion. What do we do when instrumentation isn't the drive? When a robot can physically go do the things that most people trade labor for anyways. The working class, the hardworking, good salt of the earth people that deliver the packages, deliver the food, that cook the food, that clean the bathrooms, that clean the restaurants, that clean the parking lots. These are good people that are doing good things. And their jobs are gonna be replaced by robots.
Yeah, so how do we not leave them behind, right?
And
Where
that's
do they
that's
fit
the
in?
only place where I'm all for universal basic income, is your participation in society is now, you know, your basics are covered. If you want more than that, go do something. Go add to your income. Go get a job. Go make life happen. But if your role in society is supplanted by mechanized labor force, that's a problem. That's what we should spend our time focusing on. It's not if, it's when. And so my big complaint about schools right now is we're just thinking about how do we get AI in schools and control it. It's like that's not the future. That future was last year. We need to think about what's moving next. So I'm going to put that thought out there. Artie, what's your thought?
I have a DVD logo bouncing around inside my head.
I
I
remember
saw
that
somebody put a
screensaver.
saw somebody put a Lego apparatus together that had a DVD logo bouncing around using just Legos.
That
That's
is pretty cool.
amazing.
Yeah, you ask a question that I am entirely incapable of, or unqualified for it to answer, I think. I feel like it's a big problem.
And I don't think it's going away. I think it's going to come sooner than we think.
You could be right about that.
The only thing I could see derailing it is the cash flow. We're seeing pushback against data centers and, the advancement of AI, and people are starting to say, no, not in my backyard, which power to them on that. But this is going to happen. I think it's going to be a national based kind of split where you have to, as a nation, push your AI and your robots. Otherwise, you'll be stuck behind another nation that built robots better than yours. So it's going to be an interesting time. So anybody that's watching this, love to hear your thoughts on what the next step is and how do we prepare society for robots coming in and taking over parts of our jobs. I mean, we should have taken the warning when the United Auto Workers had to fight back against the automated robots in Detroit.
Mhm.
I hate to say it, but they didn't win that argument. They didn't win that fight.
Yep.
It's mechanized. It's moving. There's still people involved. And I think they found a good balance, but they
For
didn't
now.
win the fight.
Yeah.
So let's end on a happier note. Flock cameras.
Oh,
Speaking of dystopia.
Did someone declare open season for hunting the flock?
Yes,
oh, it is a
it
happy note.
is.
Ooh.
It is starting to, I'm seeing it in the news right now where people are starting to get involved, voice their opinions, and push back. I can't point to any resource that I've seen on people reverse engineering the flock cameras, but anybody with a search tool can find that information out there. And there's some fascinating information coming out. Jackson,
Mhm.
what's the stupidest thing you can do when you're programming a security device?
um, uh, make it not secure.
Hard, hard,
But
hard, hard code a default password into it that's super easy to guess.
Oh, Mike's got it.
Mike for the win. There's hard-coded admin access, not just inside the box. Somebody found a way to channel the flow of information from a flock camera and put a packet capture on it,
Mm.
and it is using hard-coded authentication to the cloud.
Hmm.
Nice.
You'd think with a name like Flock Security, that security would be something that they do.
Well, you forgot flock was in the name. They all have the same mind, pea-sized brain of a bird.
We have got to get involved. Anybody that's listening to this, get involved. Voice your concerns.
Okay, wait, so
Because
if that is the case, then I mean, what's going on? Like, I feel like there's got to be an immediate like, whoa, whoa, whoa! You know, we've been using this. There's now this national database, and to get in, and there's a hard coded password. Like, where is that conversation going? Like, is that coming up?
so the company is using lawyers to make people stop. They're not fixing the security issue that I know of. Let's be very clear and very honest. I don't know because Flock doesn't talk about what they're doing. But I do know what I'm seeing in some of the forums that I'm reading and some of the channels I watch. They're stupid simple to break into. Now, the only reason I'm comfortable talking about this is because I'm seeing other YouTube channels talk about this, and they haven't been kicked off yet. Hopefully, we don't get marked, but if we do, we do. Get involved. Voice your concerns, because one of the things, and I'm gonna be very cautious on this, I know I keep saying that whenever I jump onto hot takes. The idea that the cameras are watching people and only people is a mistaken ID. Some of these people have broke in, and they're now tracking law enforcement and military. So the
Ooh.
thought I offered a couple weeks back, that that's a point of concern, that's a security vulnerability, it's not just been heard, and I hope our podcast wasn't the source of that, because police are being tracked using these cameras, their traffic patterns, their patrols, all that stuff. It's not good,
Can I get that information so I can know when and where I can speed?
right? I mean, it's an interesting thing. So, I'm watching a lot of pushback right now.
That's
Want
good.
to share that celebration.
Cool. Awesome.
Reach out to your senators, reach out to your congresspeople. Share your thoughts, everybody. I know I have. Well, speaking of thoughts, Mike, what's the parting thought for today?
Oh, we never got
Stay
to hear
safe
his
out there. My cell phone.
your cell
I'll
phone story. I
With
don't know if we have time for it.
Oh, yeah, let's
just really quickly. So the screen broke, and I got it repaired while I was traveling, and the screen works now, which is great because it actually did have a crack in it before, and it kind of annoyed me, and I was always hoping to get that fixed. But so the screen works, and then for a little bit, it seemed like the fingerprint reader on the screen wasn't working as well as I remember it. But as I have used it, it seems to be okay. But the thing that is not quite working, and I didn't, so when I picked up the cell phone after it got repaired, I was then pressed for time to get to another appointment. We had a lunch appointment with some friends and everything. And so I didn't have time to stay at the shop and make sure that my phone worked. Plus, he had it all rubber banded up because, you know, a lot of these cell phones now you have to unglue the phone, break into it, get into it and everything. And then he had to glue it back up. So he was still waiting for the glue to set. And I couldn't really use the phone right then. Well, I thought, well, the screen worked, like it's got to be fine. I just paid and went on my merry way. But then later on, I realized that it was not signing in and registering with the cell network. Wi-Fi works just fine. As far as I can tell, Bluetooth works just fine. But when I'm trying to use my mobile data and everything, it's not registering with the cell provider network. And I've checked the SIM card in it, you know, unmounted it, remounted it, restarted the phone. I've done all these things. And as we traveled home yesterday, coming across Wyoming, I noticed that there are in some spots that all of a sudden I would get a data signal, and all of a sudden messages started popping in and notifications popped up, and I looked at the cell phone and it showed in the upper left corner my network provider. And it showed I was like 4G or 5G. And that would last for about 10 minutes. And then I'd check again and say no service, emergency calls only. Like there was a network there that it could talk to, but it was not registering with my network and making that connection. And so it's just been really interesting that I wonder if in the process of repairing the screen that maybe, and Jackson, I know you've had some experience with cell phone repair and everything, maybe something with the antenna is not quite plugged in right, or maybe the SIM card reader, something happened there. What do you think? What do you think it is?
That's hard to say. What model phone is it? Can I ask?
It's a Galaxy S20.
I don't know.
Not the
All of
newest, not the latest, but not terribly old either.
Yeah, all of the Android phones are all different internally. I mean, they all kind of follow the same thing. It's been a while since I've done repairs. You know, I haven't done any in the last 5+ years. But I mean, it sounds like, yeah, maybe just a connector didn't get seated properly. The intermittent type of service is kind of strange. Usually if it's not seated properly, I mean, I feel like it would be like either a yes or a no.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm always skeptical of those 30-minute repair stations.
Yeah, it's just really interesting though that I did get signals at certain points. Now I mean, the weather wasn't the best, and so I couldn't ever correlate that with saying, oh, there's a cell tower here or there or whatever.
Yeah.
So I could never really identify that as a reason or whatever, but it is strange. I'm gonna try to take it in somewhere here a little bit later today, maybe see if they have an idea of what can be looked at. So
Yeah, it's hard to say, but those are always tricky.
anybody has some ideas, put it in the comments. Things I should check.
Well, it's definitely a good note to end on, guys. Well, I'm going to say great conversations. Thank you, everybody, for your conversation on this. Until next time, I'm John.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jackson.
I'm going to sing the Doom song.
Oh, golly. Cool. Take care.